Hello and welcome to episode 18 of the Comic Book Club. I definitely remembered to hit record. I'm your host, Matt Lasik.
I'm your co-host, Kendra Forte.
And we're talking about WandaVision. Just to kind of rehash what's said in the last 5 minutes where I forgot to hit record. This is like it's like somewhere within the top 5 best pieces of MCU media. I really liked the dedication that was put into the attention to detail that was put into recreating different sitcoms, between the writing, the costuming, the set design, the camera work. Some of the sitcom-y bits fell flat because they're sitcoms, and sitcoms are kind of outdated, especially older sitcoms.
But that was the point. They're outdated because they were in the wrong era.
Yeah, I guess.
They could have thrown a gay joke in there, and I'm like, wow, they're so sticking to the plot.
Yeah, but they didn't. And then we were just talking about like our favorite pieces of Marvel media. This is definitely up there because of how unique it is. Thor Ragnarok, obviously, again, because of its uniqueness, it brought a tone that was just like the anathema to the usual Marvel movie. Serious, light joke, serious, big laser fight at the end, drivel. I was talking about Avengers 2012 versus Avengers Endgame, about how Avengers was like the beginning of an era, and it was just revolutionary and trailblazing, and how Endgame was the culminate. Endgame was literally the end to what Avengers 2012 had started. It's a whole, full, complete package. And Endgame is flawed. It's got some weird stuff in like how they handle time travel and like contradicting other movies, and just like stuff with Cap's whole storyline in Endgame is really weird.
Cap did not deserve that ending when my boy Tony Stark died on the battlefield.
Can we talk about that for a second? Because this is one of the things where they contradict themselves. I don't remember which movie it is, but there's either an Avengers movie or a Captain America movie where he's like, someone's like, and they're like, what, don't you want to start up a family? And he's like, the man that wanted to start a family died in 1945 or whatever. Whenever he like got stuck in the ice. So like it's been established that yes, he once, like while he once did pang for Peggy, I think is her name.
Peggy Carter.
I confuse Peggy and Sharon Carter in my brain sometimes.
So does he.
Dang. Cold-blooded. So they already established that like he's moved on and that he doesn't feel that for Peggy anymore. So like to then have him be like, nah, I'm gonna go back and just abandon the life that he's built already. It's very it feels untrue to his character.
This feels weird for me to say personally, but in the comics.
Oh my gosh, is this your first in the comics?
This is my first in the comics. In the comics, at some point, Captain America goes back to that time, and he's like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, that's a good... gosh, now I'm just remembering. Because Endgame was like, what, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I'm remembering all the, like, Tumblr posts that were out about, like, like him, like, Peggy being like, oh, what's the weather today? And he was like, oh, I'll just go and Google. Oh.
She's like, the kid's got polio. He's like, polio?
Oh, man. So, yeah, Endgame is weird. And, like, they contradict their own rules with time travel, and it's a mess. But it's also... I can overlook those things because of the complete package and how it managed to make every other movie feel important, you know? Like, every character had a relatively important role to play that justified their own private adventures. Except for Captain Marvel, but that's a whole other can of worms.
Are the Netflix shows part of the MCU?
Yes and no. It's the type of thing where the Netflix shows referenced the movies, but the movies never referenced the shows.
Because I really liked Jessica Jones and the first season of Luke Cage.
Did you watch Daredevil?
I think I watched the first season of Daredevil.
Daredevil's my favorite out of those. I love the fight choreography in Daredevil. It's because I watch a lot of superhero media, and the live action stuff is generally like the TV shows at least is disappointing. Specifically, the CW shows are kind of disappointing because like when you're just like a human dude and you're punching your way through like 50 other human dudes, it's not logical that by the 50th guy you're still on your fighting prime. But Daredevil like acknowledged that, so there's a very good scene where it's one continuous shot of a hallway as he just plows his way through like 10 guys, and you see him like getting tired as he fights, and like every punch becomes more difficult to throw. And I loved that. That was so unique.
It's because, well, okay, Wilson Fisk is my favorite villain.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I love Luke Cage, because it really got into his, like, story arc.
More so than Daredevil?
Yeah.
Okay. Question of the day. Do I remember Luke Cage? I know I watched it, but I just kind of found it a little boring, honestly, from what I remember.
And then I have a hard-on for David Tennant, so that's why I watched all of Jessica Jones.
Yeah. I mean, Jessica Jones is also very good.
It was very entertaining.
There is a rumor
They also handled PTSD in a really good way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is a rumor that Daredevil will come back in the next Spider-Man film, but there's not been any hard confirmation. It's just a theory that's been thrown around.
Yeah, they need a lawyer.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, WandaVision. That's what we were talking about. So, sitcom-y stuff. Love the presentation. Don't really love the writing and execution because it's outdated sitcom stuff. I do, in the early episodes, I loved how the mix of, like, sitcom and suspense over the first, like, 3 or 4 episodes just, like, slowly inched more towards more suspense. It kind of just, like, drew you in. Because the first episode was, like, 90% 50s sitcom, and then right at the end, they're like, blam, existential dread. You're like, ah!
Yeah, by the first episode, you're like, that's weird. And then by the 3rd episode, you're like, no, something's definitely messed up here.
Yeah. Monica Rambeau was introduced and got powers. That's cool. I kind of wish they did more with her. The most they ever did with her powers in the show is, like, a couple times she, like, does woodly vision and can, like, see magic. And then there's once where she gets shot at and, like, the bullets just pass through her because she's made of energy. That's her powers, by the way. In the comics, Monica Rambeau is a being made entirely out of energy. So they're kind of playing with that, but she didn't, like, do anything.
It wasn't her show. It could have very easily become her show if she had more time on it.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say fangirls because my default setting is gay. Fans would have made so many fan cams of Monica Rambeau doing Monica Rambeau things. So they were like, we've got to scale this back. Yeah.
Jimmy Woo. Love Jimmy Woo. He has taken over TikTok, and I love it.
Wow, we are into... What a great way to find out that you're on gay TikTok and I'm on lesbian TikTok.
There are many different TikToks, as I've discovered. What else happened? I guess we should just start talking about, like, finale stuff. Let's start with what I'm unhappy about, because that's, you know, the human brain puts that at the forefront of the mind.
Just your brain does that.
It could just be my brain. It could just be that I'm a massive pessimist. Who knows? Again, they're inconsistent with the rules, because after Monica came out of the Hex, and she was still in her, like, 70s clothes, they went to a great deal to show us that, like, they stayed 70s clothes. So, like, things that Wanda changes can still exist outside of the Hex. But then, when Vision leaves the Hex and when she starts taking down the Hex in the finale, they just stop being real?
Okay. Monica's clothes were always clothes just rewritten. You can't rewrite something that was never there. Vision and the kids were made purely of the Hex. So when the Hex was gone, so were they.
That's a good point. That is a good point. What else? I'm unhappy with the fact that the final fight was just like a big laser CGI punch-out, but I'm happy with the fact that the big laser CGI punch-out ended with Wanda using her brain and putting up, like, the runes just like Agatha used on her. That was very clever.
And Vision and the Vision having a philosophical conversation.
I liked that. I really like that
and
scene.
He just flies away.
Yeah, he's just like... I was sending people a meme about it. where it was, it's like, give me your magic, and then Wanda's like, no, and then Vision's like, the ship of Theseus, and then other Vision's like, yes.
And then he flies through a hole in the ceiling.
And then he's just never seen again.
And he's gone.
He's just gone. Hayward was so inconsequential, which is the worst thing a villain can be. Like, he just kind of was like, I'm an evil military guy. And then frickin' Darcy hit him with a car. And that was his character arc. I mean, what did he do? What were the consequences of his actions to our main characters?
He was generic bad guy at the end.
Yeah, he didn't do any... He
tried to blow up Wanda in front of her kids, but that was earlier on.
Yeah, but, like, if he wasn't there, Wanda still probably would have ended up being hostile in the military because there's a bunch of dudes with guns outside of her home. He could have done something more with Monica's character arc, but he didn't. He was just there.
Yeah, they just needed a boss.
Yeah.
They just needed a figurehead to the organization. It's like how the Queen of England is more of a figurehead than, like, anyone.
Yeah, they just needed a military guy. Speaking of bosses, last thing I'm unhappy about, then we'll get into stuff that I liked about the finale. Again, the final villain of an MCU property is just the good guy, but evil. And there's 2 of them this time, which is twice as worse. Wanda fights an evil witch, and Vision fights an evil Vision. Huh? I mean, like, the Agatha thing I can is fine because, like, she was a constant...
They've been building up to that.
Yeah, that was something that was built up
with. That.
And, if the end goal of this series was to have Wanda come to grips with her power and what she is destined to become, then Agatha being there to be like, hey, here's all this information you need to know. That's fine. It's just like a plot device. I can deal with that. But why was the other Vision there? Was it just to make Wanda feel bad? I think it was. I guess it was also to set up, like, Vision coming back in future properties, but they could have also just easily had a thing where it's like, it could have been like an after credits thing where they, like, show White Vision somewhere and then, like, fake Vision's death, like, shoots a ping off into the cloud and, like, wakes him up from his hibernation or whatever. Like, he didn't need to be an active threat. And he wasn't even really a threat. He shows up, he squeezes Wanda's head, and then fake Vision comes up, punches him, and says, the ship of Theseus, and then he flies away.
Well, they had to do something with Vision, because otherwise, Agatha would have just murked Vision.
Yeah, I guess. And I don't know. It's weird saying it's good for fake Vision's character arc because he just ends up disappearing. Also, the kids are gone.
The kids. They killed the kids.
They just, like, put him in bed and were like, all right, see you never. I mean, the after credits does show that, like, they're still
somewhere.
They're in some capacity. They're somewhere, which I guess is nice. But come on, man.
What was happening in that end credit scene?
So you had part of the thing with Agatha was that she had her hands on the Darkhold, which is it's a Necronomicon-esque book of, like, evil magic and dark knowledge and whatever, and some of the knowledge that's in there is about Wanda's destined powers to become the Scarlet Witch. So during the big punch-up, Wanda took it from Agatha, and then the end credits scene is her reading through the Darkhold, and then while she's, like, channeling powers through it or wherever, that's how she hears her kids.
I didn't understand the point of there being 2 Wandas, though.
I think it was just, like, a thing of, like... either it was her splitting her consciousness so that she could, like, part of her could still be at peace, or it could be, like, to keep pretenses up, but also she's in the middle of the woods, so why would she need to keep pretenses up? Or maybe it's like a Dr. Manhattan thing where she can just be multiple places at once.
That's what I thought they were referencing, but I was like, that's a totally different concept.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Maybe it was just for, like, the quote-unquote jump scare visual thing of, like, at peace. Just kidding! She's, like, magicking stuff. I don't know. It was weird. Monica's gonna be with Nick Fury in space, so that's cool.
Is there a movie about Nick Fury in space coming up? Have they released that information?
Not yet. At least there hasn't been anything that's, like, solely focused on him. There's gonna be... I mean, he's gonna appear again somewhere. This could be, like, the next Avengers, where they just keep, like, adding in characters over the next couple of years, and then eventually we'll get some big team-up in space. You know? I don't know. Maybe he'll... You know what? Maybe he'll appear in Thor 3. Because that's going to be him in space with the Guardians. Or Thor 4, sorry. Love and Thunder. Or maybe Guardians 3. Probably Guardians
3 and then Thor 4.
I think Thor 4 comes out first.
Does it?
Let's
That
find
makes
out.
no sense.
Thor Love and Thunder. February 11th, 2022. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
I thought it was like December of this
No
year.
release date. 2023.
Wow.
So a full year afterwards. At least. What else is there to say about... Is there anything I've forgotten to talk about WandaVision? Oh! How could I forget? The thing I'm most upset about is that Evan Peters' involvement, the big payoff, was just a hard-on joke. That was it. They could have so... Because Agatha even says, oh, necromancy was too hard, what with your brother's body being off wherever. All you could have been is slipping, so I pulled this random guy out of the time stream, or out of the multiverse, because that's way easier on my magic reserves. That's it! And then it could be well, I don't need him anymore, and then you throw him back in the multiverse, and then you're set up for whatever you want to do with X-Men. It was so easy, but no, he's just a dude from Westview that Agatha gave powers. That's so upsetting to me.
What are they gonna do when they do combine it with X-Men? Are they just going to once again kill Pietro?
I do not know. I really thought this was it. I really firmly believed that this was going to be how they were going to introduce it.
So cool.
And so easy. There is one of the headlines I have today is that there is a rumor that Marvel is developing an X-Men reboot titled The Mutants, but nothing is known about it. The one thing we have been confirmed about is that Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool will appear in the MCU somehow. And Kendra basically just made hard eyes, and I hard agree. But there is no knowledge, there's no actual information about what capacity it will be in or whatever. So, really frustrating. I'm upset. I think that's... one last thing I want to touch on. Wanda's cold-blooded. She defeated Agatha, and her punishment was just to permanently lock her in, the brainwashed state of being the nosy neighbor next door. Which is so mean!
That's messed up. Yeah.
Although there is a trend of MCU quote-unquote, or Marvel quote-unquote heroes doing that. So, in the Skrulls' first comic appearance, the Fantastic Four defeated them by hypnotizing them into thinking they were cows. So they just lived out, these incredibly intelligent alien shapeshifters just lived out the rest of their lives as cows on a farm on Earth, which is so unbelievably cruel. In 2016, somewhere around there was a crossover event called Pleasant Hill, where it was revealed that S.H.I.E.L.D. was... Basically, it's the plot... It's very, very similar to WandaVision, where S.H.I.E.L.D. was taking supervillains that they had in custody, brainwashing them into thinking they were civilians, and then putting them all in a gated community called Pleasant Hill. And then the event was the Avengers finding out about this, and then going there, and then waking the villains up, and then the villains and their heroes fought because of course they did.
I would have just left them. What was the harm in leaving them there?
It's a human rights issue.
I guess I don't care about human rights.
Dang. You just said that on record.
Yep.
Alrighty then. I guess that is all I have to say about WandaVision.
I guess she technically created mutants.
In what sense?
Her sons are mutants since they are born with powers.
No, because Wanda was born with powers.
That makes her a mutant.
Hold on, let me think on this. I'm running through my catalog of all the MCU heroes to think if there are any that have been born with powers.
That's the distinction between a mutant and...
A metahuman?
A metahuman. Is that a metahuman...
Well, okay, actually, no, never mind. I gave you the wrong term. Metahuman is DC's term for mutants and someone that is born or given power. Metahuman is just a blanket term for any superhuman. I think the term in Marvel Universe is mutate, human mutate.
Yes.
That is someone that has been gifted powers post-birth.
Yeah.
I guess she's the first character. Although they go out of their way to say that it's because she was, like, touched by the Mind Stone or whatever.
But Agatha said that the Mind Stone just enhanced what would have otherwise died on the vine, and which is implying that she had magic, it just would have died otherwise.
Well, that's the question. Does having magic count as mutant powers? Because by that logic, you'd say that Agatha's a mutant, but she's not. She's a witch. That's always that's the thing that even, like, Marvel writers can't get down in the comics, because, like, first, for a very long time, first, Scarlet Witch was just a mutant with probability powers. Then it turned out that she and Quicksilver were Magneto's kids. Then it turned out that alongside with her probability powers, she also knew magic. Then it turned out that while she and Quicksilver were still mutants, they weren't actually Magneto kids. Then it turned out that they weren't actually mutants. They were experiments made by the High Evolutionary, so they never had mutant powers in the first place. They were just mutates. So they just keep changing it. I don't know why. It's very confusing. So that's Mutant, or that's WandaVision, I guess.
That is WandaVision.
That is WandaVision.
30 minutes of the episode was WandaVision.
I mean, that's about what I expected, honestly. Let's move into headlines, I think. First up, so DC's done with their events now. Death Metal's over, Future State is over, so now we're in the age of Infinite Frontier. I have a couple things to say about that. First off, remember when I made a big stink about how, in my ongoing complaints that comic books love their status quo, when we were talking about how Wonder Woman had, like, ascended to godhood and was leaving all the other heroes behind?
Oh, yeah.
That did not last any further than the Infinite Frontier number 0 one-shot. By the end of that comic, she's already like, I don't want to be a god anymore.
I'm back.
So it was like, what, 2 months? Because Death Metal ended in January? So it didn't even... Oh my goodness. I have no words. Here's an interesting thing that came about in Infinite Frontier, though. Because DC has done away with the somewhat limited 52 universe concept, and they have now gone back to, like, the pre-crisis days of infinite universes. One of which is being referred to as the linear verse. And the idea, this is very interesting, which is why I want to talk about it. The idea of the linear verse is that in this universe, everything that happened in the comics is canon. So the Batman that showed up to fight crime in, like, the 1930s is the same Batman that's fighting crime in 2021. They clarify this by saying that inhabitants of the linear verse just have very, very long lives and age very slowly. So,
I mean, that's the only way you can do that.
Yeah, so in the linear verse, like, none of the crises ever happened, none of the rewrites ever happened. Any event that took place in the comics happened in the linear versus timeline, which is a very interesting concept to me. Because there's a lot of, like, Golden Age stuff and Silver Age stuff that is just kind of ignored. And even a lot of stuff in, like, from the 70s to, like, 2011 when New 52 happened. A lot of that was ignored from, like, 2011 to even now. Like, they're just... Okay. So in the Infinite Frontier one-shot, they reintroduced the Justice Society, which is the first time we've seen those characters since 2011. Which is... I love the Justice Society, so I'm very amped about that. So I'm excited to see what DC is going to be doing. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the Linearverse. Something I want to talk about, since we're talking about the Justice Society. So there, the original, like, before Hal Jordan, the original character named the Green Lantern, which had nothing to do with, like, the Corps or the Guardians or any space stuff. It was like a magic-based character. Was a man named Alan Scott. And for a while, he's been a character since, like, again, like, the 1930s, since the Golden Age. And during that time, he had 2 kids who would go on to become heroes in their own right, named Jade and Obsidian. In 2011, when New 52 happened, DC started a new Earth 2 comic with like new versions of those characters, but they were so. Just as a brief reminder, Earth 2 pre Flashpoint, Earth 2 was where DC took all of like the weird Golden Age characters that didn't really make sense in like what they were doing at the time, and just shunted them over to Earth 2. So that's where like Alan Scott, nope, the name's gone. The first Flash, Jay Garrick, Golden Age Superman, Golden Age Batman. That's where all those characters lived, and they were old. they like aged like you would expect them to, and eventually Earth.
A little retirement home for superheroes.
Kinda, except the retirement home would like still go and do superhero things. So eventually, Earth 2 got folded into the main universe. So you had the Justice Society and the Justice League coexisting, and it was like the Justice League was like the premier fighting team. That's like where you have Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And then the Justice Society was a mix of the old timers as well as like new, younger heroes that the old timers were training, and it was a really fun dynamic. That's where Jeff Johns sort of first established his name as a writer, and he's one of my favorite writers. So that was the Justice Society, and then New 52 happened, and it reset the whole timeline, and DC started a new Earth 2 with the new Justice Society, but those were all, they like aged all the older characters down to their 20s. So now they were the same age as the Justice League, but existing on a separate timeline. And one of the character changes they made was that Alan Scott was now gay, which was a huge leap forward because he's one of the oldest comic book characters, and they made him gay, which is very cool. Eventually that run ended, but like it's weird because after that change was made, any future appearance of Alan Scott was still gay, even as like an old member of even as like an old man member of the JSA on like the normal timeline.
Yep. Gayness transcends all timelines.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think the only time Alan Scott appeared between young man Alan Scott in New 52, Earth 2, and him being reintroduced to the main timeline and like the Doomsday Clock stuff was during the digital-only Injustice prequel comic, which takes place on its own separate timeline. But he was gay in that. So I read that and I was like, oh, I guess they're just making all Alan Scotts gay. That's cool. So one of the stories that was featured in Infinite Frontier #0 was Alan talking to his kids about how he's like finally come to when he was in his prime in the 30s, it was kind of dangerous to be a gay man, so he sort of suppressed it. Had multiple wives, had 2 kids, which is who he's talking to. But he's like, it's a very sweet scene where he's like, this is who I am. I've realized that I'm gay, and I still love you guys because you're my kids, but I'm gay. And they're like, that's really cool, Dad. And it's a very sweet story. I have to recommend, even if just for that, to go out and pick up the Infinite Frontier #0 one shot. It's really for once, DC has made a thing where they're like, this is the new leaping off point for new readers. And it actually feels like that for once. Because they try to do that like every 5 years and it never really works out. But I don't know. If you guys do end up reading Infinite Frontier, listeners at home, please, if you want to, let us know what your thoughts are. Because I'm interested in seeing what other people who aren't longtime comic book lovers think of it.
I will read it.
Mm-hmm. Anyways. Other headlines. Let's see what we got. That was the linear verse. Oh. We have confirmation that Blue Beetle, aka Jaime Reyes, is getting his own movie. And he will be DC's first Latinx superhero movie character.
Like the DCEU is giving him a movie?
I am not sure. I'm assuming so?
Like, is it a cartoon movie, or is it like an actual... No star is currently attached, nor is there any word on whether Blue... Okay, so at this point, we just know... Just know that it's Blue Beetle.
Yeah, and we know the director. Angel Manuel Soto is the director. So, that's cool. I wanted to mention that because I love the 2 most recent Blue Beetles, Jaime Reyes and... come on, brain. Ted something. Garrett? No. Ted Garrett is Wildcat, I think. It'll come to me later. Ted Cord. I love Ted Cord. I love Jaime Reyes. Ted Cord is actually who Night Owl is based off of.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So we talked about throwback to our Watchmen series if you want to go back and listen to those episodes. If you have 3 hours to spare. So yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see... I mean, representation is just really cool whenever it pops up. But I'm also just excited to see Blue Beetle get recognition. He's sort of like, ever since his appearance in 2006, I think was when he first appeared, he's been slowly moving more and more into like the mainstream spotlight, and that's really cool because he's a really good character. I hope that this is enough for him to get his own ongoing because he currently doesn't have one. Fingers crossed. Let's talk Spider-Man news. This headline is coming from comingsoon.net. Tom Holland confirms Spider-Man contract is ending after No Way Home.
He just got there.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Do you know how many times Robert Downey Jr. said his Iron Man contract was ending, and then he just kept appearing in movies?
He was just still there.
So, yeah, he's probably got to keep appearing in movies. I think that, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but yeah, we also have the title confirmed for the next movie. It's Spider-Man No Way Home. There was a cute little marketing thing where Tom Holland, Zendaya, and the character Fournette, I'm so sorry I've forgotten her name, each posted on their own social media like, I can confirm the Spider-Man title, and it was the wrong thing. Or like they were all like dumb little cute names, and then like they all posted a video of like them like talking to, I don't know. It was supposed to be like a cute marketing thing. And
it was. I liked it.
Okay. I don't know. I think I'm very, very jaded when it comes to like that kind of marketing, like social marketing. I don't like it. I'm just like, you're trying to brainwash me. But then I go and watch the movies like 3 times in theater, so who am I to judge? But yes, No Way Home. Supposedly his contract is ending after the film, but who's to say? This is the last headline that I have prepped. This one coming from TVLine.com. Titans first look. Blackfire suits up. So this is in reference to Titans Season 3. Which I know Kendra has watched all of Titans so far.
I have watched all of Titans so far because I enjoy it, because I enjoy teen drama.
I don't, so I haven't watched it. I watched like 5 episodes and I didn't really like them. I'll probably end up watching them at some point because I am addicted to superhero media and I'll just watch anything that's put out.
I want you to watch up until Superboy.
I want to see Superboy. But yes, we have pictures of Starfire's sister, Blackfire. I'm now showing it to Kendra.
Oh, nice. She saw.
Yeah. So in the comics, Starfire, a.k.a. Coriander, is the younger princess of the Tamaranian court from the planet of Tamaran. And her backstory is that her home planet was invaded, and in the invasion her parents were killed, so her older sister, Commander, a.k.a. Blackfire, took the throne. And to stave off the invasion, she sold Starfire as a slave to the invading force.
Just sister things.
Just sister things. It's all that dynamic is even weird considering that Titans cast actresses of color in those roles.
Yeah.
So then Coriander would then go to, she was sold to this invading empire, and that was sort of the cementing of an alliance between Blackfire and this empire. So now Tamaran was like quote-unquote safe. But Starfire was sent to like a gladiator pit where she developed her powers and fighting and training and whatever. And then she ended up on Earth where she joined the Teen Titans, blah, 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 blah. So that's Blackfire. Sometimes she's hero-esque. Like, she'll do things that, in the long run, help the heroes, but usually for her own selfish needs. She's like the kind of thing where it's like, I'll do whatever it takes to safeguard my kingdom, even if it means selling my sister into slavery. Which, so,
chaotic neutral.
I guess, if you want to call it that. So yeah, that's, we also got set pictures a while ago for, Red Hood.
Yes,
that's old news. What the hell? There's some weird stuff surrounding the Marvel's, Disney's, Sony's, PlayStation, Square Enix's Avengers game. with the Hawkeye DLC that is coming soon, they are changing how they're... Kendra, you're not going to care about any of this.
Nope.
But it's news that I care about, so I'm covering it. They're changing how the XP system works. So how this, like... Because the unlock... It's really gross how they did it, because, like, every game nowadays has a battle pass. But the way they did it in Avengers is that every separate character has their own battle pass, which is so gross. Because you have to spend money on each individual character to unlock those cosmetics. Anyway, the way the leveling used to work is that every level was a fixed amount of XP, and all the fixed amounts were equal. But with the Hawkeye DLC, they're also changing how that works. So now it's a scaling level. So the higher levels you go, the more XP you'll need to reach those higher levels, which just makes it more of a grind and just makes it a worse gameplay experience for the player. So I don't know why they're doing that, except for, I guess, more money. As I said a long time ago, with each successive character that is released, I will try the game and see if it's fixed yet. And if it's not, I will put the controller down and wait for the next character to be added. Listen, man, I already, like, this is like episode 2 that I talked about it, but I pre-ordered it, so I got to play it before launch, and I was like, ooh, this isn't good. I just wasted, like, $60.
That hurts.
Yeah, it does hurt. Ugh. Rough stuff, really. I have sort of run dry on headlines. So, Kendra.
Yes.
Is there any comic book stuff that you're curious about that you want me to deep dive into? Any concept, any entity, any power set, any character, any family?
Okay, I know you explained it to me before, but re-explain Wonder Girl.
Right. So, the original Wonder Girl, it could be argued, was like Diana as a child. There's like a couple scattered adventures that are like, oh, back when Wonder Woman was a girl. But the original character that was like just separately called Wonder Girl was Donna Troy. And her origins, she is like, it's even like a thing that they acknowledge in canon. She's probably the character that has had the most changes made to her backstory. But the two like most commonly accepted backstories is that her original one, which is that she was created since Diana was the only child on Themyscira, because all of the other Amazons were just immortal and were just made immortal when like Themyscira absconded from the world of man. Since she was the only child, Donna Troy was made as a magical entity to basically be her playmate. Literally, as she ran past a mirror, one of the Amazons cast a spell so that her mirror image ran out of the mirror so that they can go and play. So Donna Troy is literally like a magical copy of Wonder Woman.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. There's some backstories that say that Donna Troy is actually a magical weapon that was made as a copy of Wonder Woman to be there in case Wonder Woman needs to be taken out, because she is not like the other Amazons.
Also a valid choice.
I suppose. So Donna Troy, the way they aged her was weird. So like in the Golden Age, Wonder Woman grew to be an adult, to be Wonder Woman, but Donna Troy like stayed a child. So then she would be one of the founding members of the Teen Titans. She would go and hang out with Dick Grayson, the first Robin, Aqualad, the first Aqualad, not the cool black Aqualad. Speedy, who was Green Arrow's sidekick, Kid Flash, that group. Eventually, though, she would grow up. She's gone through a couple of names. She's just gone as, like, Donna Troy. She's gone as Troya, so, like, Troia. For a while, she was a member of, like, the Dark Stars, which is, like... it's like if the Green Lanterns were more into police brutality than they already are. That's the Dark Stars. It's like Green Lantern... It's like the Green Lantern Corps meets Iron Man armor meets police brutality. That's the Dark Stars for you.
That's fun.
I think for a while she was like a goddess. She filled in for Wonder Woman a couple times. But yeah, she just kind of like hangs out.
She's just vibing.
The most recent Wonder Girl was a girl named Cassandra Sandsmark, whose mother was an archaeologist and whose father was Zeus. So I think in her original appearance, she just kind of like showed up. It was the kind of thing where it's like, I'm a plucky young kid and I'm going to like help Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman was like, I appreciate that, but you are a child who is very prone to being killed. So here are some magical artifacts that will simulate my powers for you. Eventually she would like outgrow the need for those artifacts because she ended up getting Zeus granted demigod powers. Flight, super strength. She's got not a lasso of truth, but like a lasso that can like shoot lightning and stuff. There was a whole thing where like Ares wanted her to become his champion, so he was like giving her extra powers and stuff. Cassie's really cool. If you want to read more about Cassie, you can check out the original. Actually, you can check out both the original and the most recent Young Justice run, as well as the Teen Titans series that ran from basically either Young Justice and or Teen Titans from like the beginning of Young Justice up until the end of the most recent Young Justice thing, because she's been a mainstay in either Young Justice or Teen Titans for the last like 30 years almost. So that's Wonder Girl. She's really cool. I don't think there have been any other Wonder Girls. You know what? I'm on a roll talking about sidekicks. So
sidekicks it is.
Sidekicks it is. Let's talk about Green Arrow sidekicks. Because Donna Troy, one of Donna Troy's most long-lasting relationships is with Roy Harper, aka Speedy, aka Red Arrow. So Roy Harper first appeared in the Golden Age as Green Arrow's sidekick Speedy, named so because of how fast he could shoot arrows or something. I don't know. It would eventually become a joke of like, why isn't Kid Flash named Speedy? Like, he's the one with speed. And Roy would be like, yeah, I know. Roy was the subject of a very controversial storyline in the 70s where Green Arrow and Green Lantern discovered that he was a heroin addict. And since that storyline, him being an addict has been a central part of his character. Whether it's like him being an active addict or a recovering addict, that's sort of been present in his characterization. Eventually, he would grow out of the Speedy name to become Red Arrow. Sometimes Arsenal. He would kind of flip flop between Arsenal and Red Arrow. He would go on. He was a member of the Teen Titans, the Outsiders, the Justice League. Just all around cool character. I like him. I like him a lot. Most recently, in the New 52, he was put in a team called the Outlaws with him as Arsenal, Red Hood, a.k.a. Jason Todd, and Starfire. So they kind of palled around for a bit. Unfortunately, he was killed during the Heroes in Crisis event by one of his best friends, Wally West, which is really unfortunate. Heroes in Crisis is a really interesting thing because the main plot device of Heroes in Crisis is that it is revealed to both the readers and to the world at large within the world of the comic that there is a place called Sanctuary where it's basically like a not like a mental hospital for superheroes, but like a place where superheroes can like go and voluntarily check in, and there's like a whole AI holograph thing where they can like work through whatever deep-rooted mental problems they have, which they can't really, they can't go to a therapist and talk about how hard it is to be a superhero because of the secret identity and everything. And then like most of Heroes in Crisis is a murder mystery because almost all of the residents of Sanctuary are killed off in issue 1 by some mystery killer. Most of them are just very small background characters, like Shrinking Eagle and Red Devil and Lagoon Boy are all like people that were in Sanctuary. The 2 survivors were Harley Quinn and Booster Gold. So the first couple issues are like them trying to decide if the other one was the killer or if they themselves were the killer. It's eventually revealed that it was Wally West who was the killer because he was also at Sanctuary and like his speed powers grew out of his control because of whatever psychosis he was dealing with, and he like killed everyone, including Roy Harper. So that kind of sucked. But, another part of the Infinite Frontier number 0 one-shot was the big reveal that Roy's still alive.
Good for Roy.
Good for Roy. So I'm excited to see him come back because I love him. Let's see here. The next Green Arrow sidekick would be Conor Hawk, who is Oliver Queen's biological son. He just kind of showed up and he was like, "Hey, He first showed up when Oliver was dead and started operating as Green Arrow, and then Ollie came back to life, so they were just both Green Arrow for a while. He's cool. I haven't really read any of the comics that he was like featured in, but I'm aware of his existence.
I know that he's there.
I know that he's there. And then the most recent... Well, no, there's more. The next one would be Mia Dearden, a.k.a. Speedy II. Mia was... Artemis in the Young Justice series? Mia is sort of the inspiration for that character. In that she was... in the comics, her backstory is a lot darker than in the show. She was, I think, I believe her backstory, and this is all from my memory, so I could be wrong. I believe her backstory is that she was a homeless person who was selling her body to survive, and because of that, she ended up contracting HIV. So that was like a really big controversial thing in the time. This was like mid 2000s, so it was considered pretty big to have a character that had HIV. Oliver found her and decided to adopt her and take her in, trained her, and she became the second Speedy. She would go to join the Teen Titans during the 2003 run, and she's just an all-around cool character. And then the most recent Green Arrow sidekick would be Emiko Queen, a.k.a. the new Red Arrow. She also went by Speedy for a while. She is Oliver's, I think, little sister by, I want to say, Lady Shiva? There's 3 or 4... DC has this thing where they'll just make, this character is a mysterious Asian female assassin. And they just keep pumping those characters out, and I cannot for the life of me keep them straight. There's Talia al Ghul. There's Cheshire. There's Lady Shiva. There's another one that I'm forgetting that I think is Emiko's mother. But they just keep making these. They just have... DC Reddit just have a thing for mysterious Asian female super assassins. But yeah, Emiko showed up at her mother's side to be like, "We will destroy you, Green Arrow." But eventually, Ollie was like, "Hey, Emmy, you want to come chill with me in Star City and be a hero?" And she's like, "Yeah, okay." She would be Speedy and then became Red Arrow. She's currently, or most recently, she was seen in the Teen Titans Rebirth run, the one that was being led by Damian Wayne. So that is all of the Green Arrow sidekicks. Pardon me. Not characters that are talked about much. They're the sort of characters that are always there in the background, but they're never really at the forefront of any story. You know, it's just if there's a Teen Titans group, there's probably going to be someone with a bow and arrow there. You know?
Yeah, just bow and arrow number 3.
Yeah.
Just pick them out of a bag.
Kinda. Yeah. Gosh, I love talking about sidekicks. I don't know what it is. I love just rifling off the list. Do you know how many Flash characters there are? There are so many. There are...
I briefly watched the CW Flash, and there were a ton of them in there.
Yeah. Let me think. There were 5 different characters that would use that, to my memory, have used the name Flash. There have been 5 or 6 Kid Flashes. There have been 2 Impulses. There have been 4 Reverse Flashes. There's been an Anti-Flash. One of these days, okay, you know what? I'm calling it now. Next episode that we do that's not a book club episode, I'm talking about the Flashes. I'm talking about the Speed Force. I'm talking about all the Reverse Flashes. I'm doing it. I'm talking about my favorite family of heroes, them being the Flashes. So look out for that in 3 weeks, because we're not doing an episode next week because it's spring break. That's something I wanted to talk about. No episode next week because it's spring break, so Kendra and I will not be together to record. But after that, we are doing...
Something is Killing the Children.
Yes. We will try and squeeze all 15 issues in, because it was a 15-issue limited series that Kendra really likes. I haven't read it ever, so that this will be the first time that we're covering a story that I haven't actually read before. So that'll be interesting. So
and
watch
I want to say Boom Studios is my favorite indie comic producer.
Boom Studios is really good. I would recommend. I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do Lumberjanes.
Yes, Lumberjanes. They've got Adventure Time, Ben 10, Bill and Ted.
Yeah, they do a lot of licensed stuff. But in terms of their original IPs, I would say that Lumberjanes is probably my favorite.
I like Giant Days.
I forgot about Giant Days. Yes, Giant Days is also really good. I tried to look up Lumberjanes to make sure that I was correct, and I said put in Luberjanes, which is a very different story.
I'm on the website. Lumberjanes is on here. They also have The Magicians. Have you ever seen The Magicians?
I have not.
The Magicians is my favorite TV show of all time.
Yeah, they've done a lot of licensed Adventure Time stuff.
I'm going to make you watch The Magicians. That's not related. But I'm going to also read the comics The Magicians, so now it's related.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to see. I'm now looking through Boom Studios' library to see if there's any other things that I've read from them that I really, really liked. They have a weird amount of like Planet of the Apes stuff, which I didn't really expect, to be honest. I could have sworn there was something else that Boom Studios had put out that I read and fell in love with. Lumberjanes is fantastic. Giant Days is fantastic. I'm telling you this more. I'm frantically looking through their library because I swear there was. Irredeemable and Incorruptible are two separate series that interweave through each other. Irredeemable is about a Superman analog that goes evil, and Incorruptible is about his biggest villain going good because he feels like something's gone off with the balance. Those are super interesting. They're fascinating in the same way that Invincible is fascinating. Of what would happen if Superman or a Superman equivalent did decide to just conquer the Earth? What could be done? They've done a Maze Runner tie-in. Now we're just filling the space by talking about Boom Studios. But they are really good.
I like Boom Studios. I think I'm going to read Smooth Criminals.
Okay, yeah. They are a really good indie publisher. So that'll be it for us today. If you want to talk to us about literally anything, if you have recommendations, questions, topic suggestions for discussion, headlines that you want to make us aware of, literally anything that you would want us to know, you can tweet us at CBBCPod. That's at CBBCPOD on Twitter, or you can email us at cbbcpod@gmail.com. Please reach out to us. We thrive on audience interaction. We love it. This will be us we won't be back until, sorry, my brain has just shut down. I've forgotten what I say at the end of these things.
Excelsior.
That's at the very end, though. But yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Not next week. We're skipping next week. I've been your host, Matt Lasik.
I've been your co-host, Kendra Forte.
And until next time, Excelsior.